YouTube, it's Tom back with another one for you. This one is a continuation of the Redemption Manual 5. This is the third installation of that. And let's get right into this shit. So, this first slide is kind of fucking blurry, but I'm going to try my best to get this shit out in English for you. So, now let's put all of the above information on dissonance theory and people's interest in truth, as long as it isn't painful. Together, to see the tangled web that has been woven for people, will be guided by two sayings: the proof is in the pudding and follow the money. To set this up, it is important to understand that in order to operate effectively in the current political and financial systems, the purveyor of so-called government have set up a trust. We use the quotes around the word government because it is a fictional entity. There is no person or thing that can be ascribed to this linguistic expressions. It is without reference. Government, quote unquote governments, is the big fiction. Before explaining how the so-called government is a trust, we'll first examine a trust that most of us are familiar with, the deed of trust. If you're asking the question, do you mean my mortgage? No, I mean your trust. And so it is a trust, and this is how you have to charge them, is with breach of trust and shit like that, because it is all contracts. That's how you get them into court. So if you are an assumed homeowner, go to your files now and get what you think is your mortgage. We will introduce definitions at the point that they are used to facilitate your understanding. All definitions are taken from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th and 6th editions. So what is a deed of trust? Before we answer, let's see what is a trust. We will only go into enough depth to give you the feel of what you have probably been overlooking. The trust is a legal construct for holding property, for some of us determined by the terms of the trust. The formal application of trust usually involves three parties, although technically only one is required. The creator of the trust is called the trustor and or grantor or settler, hereafter trustor. So the trustor is the original holder in due course of the property. And so this is what I was showing you with the private banking and all that shit. This is why you make a contract with your straw man, and then you get the and then you send it over to the treasury, and the treasurer will be the holder. And he will be the one that will settle all the fucking accounts for you. So it's the trust between you, your straw man, and the fucking treasury. Okay. So that's how you do the private banking. It makes a triangle. So the trustor is the original holder in due course. The property sets the contract for the benefit of the beneficiary. The property and the terms of the contract are usually managed by a third party. The trustee is called a fiduciary, and so they have a duty as a fiduciary, which all the public servants are the fucking fiduciary, and they hold an obligation and duty to make it work out in your benefit as you're the beneficiary, right? But they try to switch the roles on you in court and shit. So did you know that when you signed the deed of trust that you were given a benefit advantage to the banker who created the deed of trust? Answer: the banker did. So why wouldn't the banker draw up the contract on his own advantage if you didn't say anything against it? The deed of trust, an instrument, is used in many states. Take the place in serving the uses of a contract law mortgage, which legal title to real property is placed in one or more trustee to secure the payment of a sum of money or the performance of other conditions. Now let's begin the process of attaching parties to the definition and defining some more terms, so you can see where you stand. You may have assumed that you are the trustor. While it's true that your signature paid for the house, yes, you read it correctly. That was not the agreement that you signed last. And so when you go in there and you're signing all your paperwork at closing and all that, everything's already fucking paid for at that point, right? So technically, if you showed up with a 1099, they would have to fucking take that shit at the closing, because it's already fucking paid for. Now, what you're signing after that, all them fucking documents, is allowing them to put the lien on the house, and then fucking saying that you're gonna pay all the taxes for their fucking investments that they're gonna make based on the money that they're gonna be lending when they write your house in as a asset and a liability, right? Which allows them at fractal banking allows them to lend out 10 times the amount of whatever their supposed assets are. So essentially, you're fucking lending them the money, and you are lending it to them, and then you're signing to fucking to pay all their fucking taxes for them in the form of a mortgage, right? So here's a quote from the deed of trust. Witness it, the truster hereby irrevocably grants, conveys, transfer, and assigns the trustee in trust with the power of sale the above described real property together with leases, issues, profits, and income there, subject, however, to the right, power, and authority hereinafter given to the conferred upon beneficiary to collect and apply such property income. You see how they're fucking playing the fuck out of everybody. Everybody's getting fucking, because nobody reads that shit. You know what's funny, when I tell my family, oh, you guys are paying for a mortgage, it's already paid and all this shit, and I could probably help you and all that. Oh, I don't want to get involved with something that I don't understand. Oh, really? Well, when was the last time you studied banking? Because you signed a fucking mortgage that you didn't understand with a banker who went to fucking school to learn how to rob you. That's something that you don't fucking understand. I think you guys are already wrapped up in that, right? Come on, man, cut it out. So what you did when you signed the deed of trust and the title company, you assigned the lease between you, one who furnishes consideration, thing's signature. So you're the only one that really fucking signed anything, and it's really only you and you on that fucking paperwork. The bank isn't a real thing, and the truster, the corporate fiction set up on registration or your birth certificate, another fiction, right? To the beneficiary, the bank. What were you thinking? As said earlier, the truth is far from obvious. And we can only give you the highlights in this essay, but there are more pieces to this story. United States bankruptcy. What banks don't want you to know? The Secret of the Federal Reserve. And these are all books that you can go get. What is the United States? Are you sure you want to hire an attorney? And before the judge. So how did the deed of trust become a lease anyway? While you were busy not paying attention to all that legalese, a second document was slipped in front of you. Was slipped in front of you after you signed the note, thus turning you from an owner into a renter. Home ownership is a very very short-lived experience for most people. Yeah, it lasted a whole fucking 30 seconds fucking until you until you sign the rest of the shit. So, assignment of lease. Such occurs when the lessee transfers entire unexpired remainder of the term created by the lease. Title: the evidence of right which a person has the possession of property. The definition for deed of trust above uses the form legal title. Exactly what does this mean? The term legal is the tip of law, another fiction. Since the so-called U.S. bankruptcy and HJR 192 were implemented, removing constitutional money from circulation, there is no way to extinguish, to truly pay a debt, solely a measure of discharge, dollar for dollar. We went from the gold standard to the promise to pay standard, and all demands and payments constitute an issuance of public currency. A promise to pay signature or Federal Reserve notes creates money and is what funds your mortgage, auto loan, credit card purchases, and every other kind of loan you take out, including traffic tickets, right? The other tip off the word evidence is in the definition title. Title in trust is a quasi-title, not title in fact. And I have a video on how to fucking common law patent all of your land to get the real title, and it's through common law. So the deed is a color of title, so just so you know. So you have the right to possession, but you can never own anything outright. All property and labor being pledged in the so-called bankruptcy, it is for the reason that legal title can never be defined in the term res or real thing. It can only represent a fiction. Instead of the land being the security, the bankers have replaced this with legal title to real property. A legal description, a fiction. Can the legal description ever be the land or the house and the property? No, not under the current system. And that's what I was saying. The bankers only have, and they only own the fucking paper that makes reference to the property, not the actual property itself. All right. So that's the fucking thing that's going on here. They're robbing everybody that way by convincing you that paper fucking means something when that paper is only making reference to a property. It is not the real property that they own. Okay. So keep that in mind. So in 1803, their president, Mr. Thomas Jefferson, appointed Mr. Lewis and Mr. Clark to explore the map of the newly acquired Louisiana Purchase from France. Nearly 1/3 of the total area purchased by the United States for this social compact known as the United States of America. From this expedition, the entire area purchased by the United States for the United States of America was mapped with metes and bounds. We measure today in boundaries for each piece of property with metes and bounds. So Townships were formed across the nation for every 6 miles square containing 36 miles. These townships still exist today. So who was managing the trustee or trust? Surprise, a British esquire, attorney. Attorneys are the only ones as the collateral endorsers who can own title companies. This is a very convenient arrangement, don't you think? So are you sure you want to hire an attorney? Ha! Are you sure you want to hire a fucking attorney? Yeah, absolutely not, bro. Get the fuck out of here with that dumb shit. Don't fucking disrespect me and fucking insult my intelligence, you motherfuckers. Come on, bro. Fuck out of here. So most people suppose or assume that a contract has to be knowingly, intentionally, and voluntarily agreed to by the parties involved. This is usually the case when there is no written signed contract. For example, when eating at a restaurant, if you place an order for food, then protocol can consume the food upon receipt. The custom is you're liable for the bill. However, there is no whole class of contracts, or far more sinister nature. They are called adhesion contracts. These are contracts made wholly for the benefit of a single party. So it's like a unilateral contract, right? So what do we got? However, there is a whole contracts made wholly for the benefit of a single party. They come into existence whenever you exercise a benefit offered by a corporate such as welfare, Social Security, Medicaid, food stamps, postal delivery. See, even the mail they can fucking get you with. And so, you know, it's a good idea really to change all your shit over to a private mailbox and shit like that. So sign an application, an affidavit for a passport, so-called federal highway, sign your private property name to obtain a license, marriage, automobile, aviation, CPA, or register you perceive as your private property, your babies, automobiles, unless you specify that you don't want to be liable for the unrevealed benefits or agreed or commercial contracts by signing your name without prejudice. And that's what I do. I either put without prejudice, you can use the verbiage, or you can use UCC 1-308. You can use that. What I do, I sign and I put a box around my name every single time. I have not signed one thing without a box around my name in 5 years. So go ahead and monetize that, motherfucker. So you have become an accommodation party to the fiction. So this system for inducing you into commerce has been carefully designed with that specialized knowledge, such as the information contained in this essay. Your chances of prevailing in an encounter with it are almost non-existent. It owes its success to the interlocking connection of three fundamental ploys. Build a system based on appearances, which is fiction. 2, create subtle ways of getting people to contract with the fiction in order to make them accommodation parties. And number 3, induce people to give this fiction substance by arguing and testifying in statutory courts. And so that's the thing. So when you go in there and you're arguing on behalf of your fucking straw man as if you're him, that's how you know that you're already fucked, because you need to go in there and play the, if you go in there, right, you fucking better off not. But if you do go in there, you're going to have to speak on behalf of your third man, of your straw man in the third person. That's how fucking retarded this stupid ass game is. So corporate entities, Federal Reserve notes, property description, and statutory laws are all fictions. There is nothing of substance to them. A corporate entity such as a straw man debtor is not the flesh and blood. Federal Reserve notes do not come into existence through their assignment to something of value such as gold or silver, but by taking out a loan. A title deed identifies a home in terms of an artificial system and meets the bounds called a property description. So a description of property that is not, if you read, you won't find anything that describes the attribute to the real house. And that's what I'm telling you. They only own the paper making reference to the property, not the actual property. So this also applies to your car title and any other title of property. The real substance of a thing referred to as the res, legislative statutory laws, are not written pursuant to the contract, Constitution, and Bill of Rights. That would limit the government's power over its creators and the sovereign flesh and blood man and woman of America. By creating a system that is a fiction from end to end, they ensure that the real game stays hidden and not 1 in a million will figure it out. Okay, well, you're the 1 in a million. In closing, let's revisit over earlier discussions of dissonance theory and examine the dissonance levels attributed to the above shocking from the perspective of the uninitiated information. So you have believed all your life that money is valuable and have therefore struggled for it to attain it in order to purchase the material necessities of life like a home. You have also believed that you have been paying your debts. Now that you're learning you have been dissimilarly or alternatively could exist. The information that you have been absorbing from the culture, either by osmosis or government schooling, with what is prescribed here in the essay, extremely high, meaning high dissonance. In addition, the information presented here invites you to make some major decisions in regarding the interpretation you give to your perceptions. This also contributes to high dissonance. And finally, the effort justification is also high. So the daily commute to your job, according to our definitions, then dissonance would be off the charts. For some of you, it probably is, and you're in shock. However, after a week or so, you will believe that you really own your house and are not simply a caretaker for the international bankers. Ask yourself what would happen if you were to stop paying your fees on the term or the form of property taxes. Do you know what the bankers would do? How do you explain that? And so these fucking words are getting tiny here. So for the rest of you, I hope I have piqued your interest enough to read the other essays in order that you may deepen your understanding of this amazing story. Only by doing so will you be able to claim your remedy. And this is what it is. And I mean, you really have to understand what's going on here on a fundamental level. And so that's why I'm reading all this shit to you so you guys can get it, because the fuckery runs deep. I'm telling you. So the Redemption Manual 5th edition series is the continuation of previous releases with many new additions, now broken down into many book series to more fully cover the content, formatting, commentary updates, and the new information has been added where necessary. Some information documentation will be taken from the Redemption Companion to better present or document a particular point of matter, as well as incorporation from both fee and servitude. The operating sovereign to create what is now known as the Redemption Manual series. The writings of a man in prison were kept, preserving his thoughts, his study notes, and his conclusions within the letter to his families are maintained. This individual has chosen to reveal his understanding of why he was in prison and how he got there, how to keep the rest of us out of there, and how to more fully understand the commercial nature of all things. In the following pages, you will find history definitions, scriptures, information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the total, as we best understand it today, of the undisclosed commercial scheme that has been perpetuated upon every man, woman, and child since 1933, and the solution. In the beginning of this manual are references to scripture, though some believe it to be a direct part of what we call redemption. It is also presented herein to show that commercial law has been in use since day one. Some believe that this country, without guidance and help of the Almighty God as a nation, is doomed. That might be true. However, more prevalent is the simple truth that for evil to prevail, good men do nothing. Only way they could win is if we don't fucking do anything. You see that? So we, like so many other civilizations before us, have left our first love, for it is said in scripture, thou shalt not have any other gods before me. And now you fucking religion is in the government. You see that? And you fucking idolize them, and you worship them, and you fear them more than God. Okay, so that's all well and fine, but when is one compelled to honor Caesar and his private corporate rules, regulations, and statutes to support his de facto bankrupt corporation under democratic socialism, today called the federal and state government? It's a little difficult to accept in your private prayer room closet, recognized by prayer or otherwise your creator God, when out in the federal fictional world, there are many gods to distract people. This for many of us is as much a spiritual movement as it is a tangible one. And that shit is true, because you change as a person physically, spiritually, mentally, and all that when you start to understand who it is that you really are and how you got fucking played. You know what I'm saying? But in all reality, you have to understand that it's always been you against you, because all this information has been out there. You made a choice not to look for it. Now, obviously, you're watching this video now because you gravitated toward it for a reason, right? So there is no such thing as a fucking coincidence. There is no such thing as a fucking accident or none of that. Everything happens for a reason, okay? So you found this shit for a reason. So here you go. So now you get to know the fucking truth. So it is said that the love of money is the root of all evil, although in this in part is true, we would remake the saying as greed is the root of all evil. And that's the truth. So money isn't the root of all evil, it's fucking greed. Obviously, in today's society, people scramble for what they think is money to pay bills and live, and what they think or hope is a comfortable way of life. For sadly, it is almost now. So our so-called leader in their lust for power and money have sold our fathers, ourselves, and our children, our posterity, to the 10th generation into bondage. Today, every man, woman, and child owes thousands to the national debt. This is not only immoral and reprehensible, it is also backwards. The so-called government owes you the amount and the whole lot more for their fraud, damage, and dishonor. And that's what I was just telling you in the last video, is that the national debt is not really what we owe, but what they owe us, okay? So it's not nothing that you have to worry about ever paying. So all that government does is provide, legitimately is in pursuit of its duty to provide protection for private rights, which duty is a debt owed to its creator, we the people, all right? And this is what they're scared to death of. They're scared to death that one day you are going to find out who the fuck you really are. They're petrified of that. Because they don't know how you're going to react. And even though it was all a game, and it is all a fucking game, I'll fucking admit, and it's only funny when you know that it's a game. But it ain't funny when you don't know it's a game, because you're taking it real fucking serious. And I was there too. And it really ain't even that serious. But they can still get fucked up either way if they want to get stupid about it, you know what I mean? So you see in the truth that they owe us. However, due to their unauthorized actions and corruptions, they have removed what was constitutionally established as real money, backed by something of value, gold, silver. Therefore, what you think you owe, what they think you owe, and what you think they owe you is of no importance. When there is nothing in reality to pay with, because this shit is all fictional. Although as debt systems begin to collapse, we are seeing a return or an attempt to return to lawful money by many states. We are far from there. So since the total different commercial system has been put into effect, allow what has been called this commerce game to go on, it is only a matter of importance to fully understand and utilize it. In and for your commercial transactions and regards to what your so-called government demands. Example, in the nature of taxes, many remarkable discoveries lie ahead. Keep in mind, not everything is everyone's commercial life situations can be addressed or covered herein. However, the principles can be applied in almost every situation. And that's what I was trying to tell you, is that the underlying principles are always going to fucking remain the same, which is that everything is commercial. Okay, so when you understand that, then you know that, you know, there really is fucking limited liability, you know what I mean? Because it's really never been making reference to you as a individual so much as it's been making reference to your conduit or your monopoly piece that you use on the board almost, right? So if someone were to ask you to place a value on your freedom, you would undoubtedly say that it is one of your most prized possessions. If on the other hand, someone were to ask you to name a single word that which most imposes on your freedom, how many of you would volunteer? Why, me, of course. You're thinking, then name a single word in the commodity that you are most dependent on in forming your impressions, making a decision, and understanding your world. So how many of you would say accurate information? Lastly, what word or phrase might you use to label a person who is proud to be oblivious to the underlying conditions of his or her life? Ignoramus, fool, dupe, easily conned, asleep, doesn't care, pretender, happy idiot, insane, or delusional. And I'd say all of the above, because wow, you got to be on like some next level shit to just fucking disregard this and go ahead and act like everything's fine. That shit is crazy. You know, but to each his own. Everybody's not going to choose to wake up, because it does take work to wake up, and it doesn't take work to be a slave. You just got to not give a fuck about your life to be a slave. And if this described your condition, would you be willing to take a deeper look within? And that's the biggest part of it too, is that now you have to question all of your beliefs, right? In our experience, this, with great sadness to our hearts, describes the majority of Americans today. So it is for the reason stated above that redemption is for everyone, and few will be willing to pay the price to learn, to take responsibility, and to act. These are the attributes that are required for any man or woman who would be free. You can sit around and massage each other's hearts, whining and complaining all your problems out the way you see there, the government, the economy, your neighbors, or you can look within and realize that you can't influence change without having first full control of anything within yourself. In time, if you In time, if you that well and join with others around you who are doing well, you stand a chance of creating a lasting change. And without that, well, you have what you have. You know what I mean? If you read this book, your perceptions and your belief of the system will be challenged. You will stand in the precipice and say to yourself, well, if everything that I have ever been taught is a clever lie and then illusion, then what is the truth? And if you make it to the other side, you will understand the full meaning of the phrase, the truth is stranger than fiction. And it fucking is. And when you realize that slavery has been a choice this whole time, you're gonna fucking spaz. So hopefully you found out sooner than later. Me, I understand things on a whole other level. I don't even give a fuck now. But it's better that you find out sooner than later anyway, because then you can, make a fucking educated choice to be a slave or not. But it has been a choice, and it is an option. So, which do you prefer, the red pill or the blue pill? Finally, understand a few important concepts. Right here in the beginning, you must cleanse your mind of the law, supposed law. The scriptures refer to this as renewing your mind. You must wash your heart, your soul, and your mind of the conditioning, or as some would call it, the brainwashing that has been fed to you through the public school system. Some would have you believe that you are both subject and object of government. That is not true. Or rather, is true if you allow it to be true, and you have the rights that you are able to defend. So you don't even fucking have rights if you don't fucking know what they are. It's really that simple, all right? Really that fucking simple. So, because what the fuck are you gonna say if you go into fucking court and you don't even know what your rights are and who the fuck you are? You're gonna get fucking mollywopped in that motherfucker. So you need to know who the fuck you are. So you have by now swallowed the red pill and you want to see the whole truth. You're ready to go down the rabbit trail so that when you surface, you can free your mind, come to the understanding who you are, what you are. Then the matrix will unplug you and spew you out of the matrix mouth, and now your journey begins. The first step. Let's go to the movies. So we go to the movies for entertainment. Maybe you get away from the reality of our world, and just for a few moments we escape that reality and enter into a twilight zone, if you will, or adventure, romance, and the like. But is it possible someone is trying to tell you something? Is there full disclosure being made on the silver screen? Are you aware of the messages, or have you been oblivious? Following our movie reviews on The Wizard of Oz and the Matrix movies, they are represented herein, allow you to understand really what has happened and offer understanding. And then in the next slide, I'm gonna do. It's called here The Wizard of Oz, the coded movie of what really happened to fucking America. And you guys are going to like this because I have a lot of insight to put in on this motherfucker too. Because that shit is real. The Wizard of Oz really makes reference to everything that's been happening here and that has happened since 1933. You guys are going to love this shit. I know you've heard a lot about the coded movie of Wizard of Oz and all that. So we're gonna get into that shit next. Tomorrow I'll put in the next pieces of that and we'll start diving into that. So you guys are going to fucking love this. So it is a fucking game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these fucking assholes. That's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.